I want to jump into this quickly where Caribbean leaders face criticism, and it's rightly due for yielding to U.S. pressure by ending the medical scholarships and assistance from Cuba. This shift that is happening is undermining regional sovereignty, and it ignores the historical Caribbean unity and lacks American alternatives for what I call intellectual development and also healthcare. It's wicked what the Americans are doing to us, but it's even more wicked when our leaders decide they have to bow. The erosion of Caribbean sovereignty. Now the US is pressuring people, medical aid crisis, and the failure of regional leadership. You know, this quiet weekend was interrupted by a signal of capitulation. The Prime Minister of St. Lucia announced that medical students would no longer stay in Cuba or study in Cuba. This decision was born from external pressure. It reveals what I call a deepening crisis in the Caribbean self-determination. Self-determination. I've been speaking about this like forever. I keep asking what are our leaders doing? Why are these people selling us out to the highest bidder? Why? These are people you vote for. I mean, let's look at the catalyst. St. Lucia bows to Washington. Last week, Prime Minister Philip J. announced that St. Lucian students will stop pursuing medical studies in Cuba due to geopolitical pressure. In the very video where this concession was made, the Prime Minister asked if any doctors present were trained in Cuba. 3 women raised their hands. The PM himself described them as 3 of the best experienced doctors in St. Lucia. What is the cost of all of this? We are sacrificing the verified pillars of our own healthcare system to appease foreign interests. Here we go again. I mean, it's bad enough what Kamla did down there in Trinidad. But what is it that we're doing here in these little islands? It's getting worse day by day. I say these politicians have no spine. I don't know. I encourage people to do their civic duties when they want to vote. But I've all come to the point that voting is useless if you're not running your own country. Washington effectively runs Trinidad and many of these other islands now. That's where the policy decisions are coming from, not from us. So you have a pillar of development. Not just diplomacy happening here, scholarship assistance is Cuba. That leads to intellectual development. Professionals run their home countries, and there's local infrastructure growth. If you look at the case of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the medical infrastructure is built on returnees from Cuba. You had Dr. Chalo as a pathologist. He's the man who cut down all the dead people in the morgue. You have Dougie Slater, who was a politician in St. Vincent, studied in Cuba, doctor. You have Dr. Parsons, who's a dentist. All these people studied, were extracting people's teeth. You have Bernard Hamilton. All these people studied in Cuba. This is the St. Vincent proof I'm talking about here, not St. Lucia now. I'm talking about St. Vincent. So what becomes of us when we allow America to dictate all of our policies for us? I mean, guys, this thing has to stop. People talk about what you're going to do, what you're going to do. A lot of these people are throwing us under the bus because they want a visa to visit Manhattan. The Cuba relationship, medical degrees, returning doctors, infrastructure support, scholarship assistance. What is the US relationship? Demands to stop that. Diplomatic pressure. What is the infrastructure support? Blank, there's nothing. Scholarship assistance, blank, nothing. So Cuba is open for business with us. The Americans are closed. Did we ask the Americans if they were prepared to fill the void? Do you know that the last major US scholarship initiative was over 40 years ago? It was called the Freedom Scholarship post-Grenada invasion after the Americans invaded Grenada for some false pretext. Do you know that is what it was all about? 40 years ago, they gave us 2 scholarship when they invaded to appease us. That's not happening anymore. So who's going to fill the blank when we do that to Cuba? You see, sometimes, we cut off our nose. Anyway, let me just continue. And now we have the domino effect across this archipelago. And of course, the tactic is to divide and conquer. I have talked about this endlessly. I've talked about it forever. US officials, including Marco Rubio, moved through the region, pressuring the nations individually rather than engaging the bloc. That's what he did. The result now is instead of a unified no, nations capitulate one by one to limit Cuban medical assistance. Look, guys, I tell you all, I have no time with politicians to vote for them anymore. They are a bunch of cowards and waste of time. Everybody wants to walk down the streets of Manhattan, and if you don't get a visa, you feel as if you're a failure in life. Don't get it twisted with many of them. Anyway, where's the collective bargaining power? The Organization of Eastern Caribbean States and CARICOM appear to be in shambles. Well, appear? Let me take out that. They are in shambles. Because you have to ask the question, why can't Grenada, St. Lucia, Antigua, St. Kitts, St. Vincent coordinate a response? Instead of standing together, if we stop Cuban programs, you must provide American scholarships. Leaders are bowing individually for minor concessions like visas. Do you understand what I'm saying here? I wonder what really passes for leadership in our Caribbean. What really passes for leadership in this region of ours? Somebody please tell me. No, somebody need to tell me. And then, of course, there's the double standard, which I often talk about: refugees and rejection. On one hand, you have the Americans violating international law, while you have, on the other hand, the Caribbean leaders rejecting their own brothers and sisters from Haiti. Caribbean nations pressured to accept refugees. And you have Caribbean leaders agreeing to take refugees, but explicitly state, don't send us any Haitians. So you're accepting people from third countries, whether it be Slovakia, Afghanistan, all sorts of people you don't have no kind of correlation, no kind of synergy with. But you don't want Haitians. We're a sick bunch of people, and I'll tell you why. Have we forgotten our debt to Haiti? 1791 to 1804, Haiti defeats Napoleon, to establish the first free black republic. A lot of people don't know the history. These leaders we have today, a lot of them, they come up, they don't know the real history. They get voted into politics and they just, I don't know. Haiti equipped Simon Bolivar to liberate Venezuela, Colombia, and Panama. You understand what is happening here? Then Hugo Chavez forgave Haiti's debt in honor of history. You have France sucking out debt from Haiti till now, pay to become an independent nation. And now you have Caribbean leaders rejecting their own kit and kin. Man, there's some sick, weak people in this region here. Sick, weak people. Because none of you remember December 8, 1972, when giants walk. 4 leaders, one stroke, they defied the US embargo to recognize Cuba simultaneously. You had Errol Barrow in Barbados, you had Fob Burnham in Guyana, you had Michael Manley in Jamaica, and you had Eric Williams in Trinidad. 4 leaders. One stroke of the pen, and they defied the US embargo to recognize Cuba simultaneously and to do business with them. What do you have today? Leaders capitulating to the US and going backwards and rejecting Cuba. Y'all are some sick leaders in this place here. Because we've now gone from giants versus a bunch of jokers. Because in 1972, we stand our feet and not our knees, Michael Manley. What did that? I shortened it. He really said, stand on your feet, really, and not on your knee. Stand up to these people. Today, we have compromise, and we are compromising national health care. Sovereignty for fear of sanctions or hope of visas. That is what we're doing today. Compromising national health care. Sovereignty for fear of sanctions or hope of visas. You're talking about 55 years after breaking the embargo. Why are we voluntarily returning to it? Why? That is the question. What kind of leaders do we have? But there's this obsession about toppling a revolution in Cuba. You had one time where you had 6,000 plus CIA agents who attempted to kill Fidel Castro. They said they couldn't get through. Then you had sanctions on fuel sales. Mexico and Venezuela now. So no more oil from these countries. And then now you have blacklisting medical aid facilitators. A circle and a loop. What is the objective here, why Americans? Isolation and destruction of a bulwark of resistance 90 miles from the empire. Cuba is located 90 miles from the US shore, and they can't believe the most powerful thing in the entire world, all these years, was able to just put up a serious resistance to us. And they don't want that. So this is what they're doing, and using us to go back to something that we broke back then. And these people are the biggest terrorists on the planet. And I'm not the first to say so. They're tyrannical. You remember what Martin Luther King said? It's a continuing policy. He called them tyrannical in 1967. Go look it up. Not me. The strong do what they can, and the weak suffer what they must. This is the diagnosis I'm giving you here now. The Caribbean has accepted the role of the weak. We have allowed ourselves to believe we must suffer American dictates rather than leverage our collective strength. That is where we are right now. Sad times for us in the region. Because there was a struggle at once for consensus. This is a battle for the mind, people. Without historical memory of CARICOM, of Haiti, 1792, of 1972, we are vulnerable to manipulation. How many of these leaders remember 1972? And you have prime ministers now justify bans as geopolitics. That's what they're doing now, ignoring that democracy means the right to choose where one studies. Look, if we do not know our history, we cannot defend our future. And clearly, the leaders that we have right now cannot defend our future. But as always, we must not get weary. Because if we get weary, we get tired and the enemy wins. Julius Malema said that, not me. And even the Bible said, must not get weary in well doing. No self-respecting leader should allow another country to dictate where their citizens can study. We cannot give up. We just cannot give up. And we can't give in. We have to keep pushing. But these leaders have already given up. It takes a new crop of leaders. I don't know where we're going to get them from. Because the people who best fit these jobs never get elected to office. That's the problem. But there's a manifesto for sovereignty, guys. We have to reject the void. Do not accept the prohibitions without alternatives. America can't tell us not to take Cuban scholarships. You tell us that, we're going to provide it. Well, go to hell. Go to hell. We have to honor history. We have to remember the unity of 1972 and the debt to Haiti. We have to resist division, refuse to be picked off one by one. I've been talking about this for ages. And we have to stand tall. Sovereignty is not given, it is asserted. We have to stand on our feet, not on our knees. We can't be thinking about Manhattan all the time. But anyway, you guys have a good day. Leave your comments in the section below.